My name is Claire Bennett. I was 36 years old, a public school reading specialist in Boise, Idaho, when a parent I had never met emailed to thank me for supervising the dyslexia track in my sister's homeschool co-op. And that was how I learned my sister had been using my teaching license, my literacy materials, and my name to make her church basement program look professional. The email itself was cheerful. That was the cruelest part. "Thank you for creating such a safe reading space for kids like my son," the mother wrote. "Amanda told us your expertise is what makes the co-op different." I read it standing in my classroom after dismissal, with one hand still holding a blue whistle I had used to get a cluster of third graders safely through the crosswalk that afternoon. For a full 5 seconds, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Wrong Claire, wrong Bennett, wrong school. Then I opened the attachment she sent with a question about reading assessments, and there it was. A glossy co-op brochure with a church logo at the top, smiling children in fold-out chairs, and a line in clean serif font that said, "Guided by Claire Bennett, licensed reading specialist." My name, my title, my profession, my trust. My sister Amanda's face was on the front under a banner that read, "Family-led learning with professional support." Some wounds arrive with shouting. This one arrived laminated. Before I tell you how that brochure led to a state complaint review, where my mother's whole church mother image collapsed in front of the very parents she had been manipulating, tell me this. What time is it where you are right now, and where are you watching from? I want to know how far this story travels before I tell you what a family sounds like when it says, "It's for the children," but means, "Give us your credentials and be quiet." Because this did not begin with the brochure. It began years earlier, the first time my sister learned she could treat my work like family property as long as she framed herself as the real mother and me as the childless teacher with all that training going to waste. Amanda is 2 years older than I am. She has 4 children, a practiced voice full of tired holiness, and a talent for turning ordinary chaos into public sacrifice. My mother Valerie adores that performance. In our family, motherhood functioned like a higher rank. A mother's need outweighed everyone else's plan. A mother's exhaustion excused bad manners, boundary violations, late payments, broken promises, and especially the theft of invisible labor. Amanda was brave. Amanda was called. Amanda was doing kingdom work. I was the one with a classroom, a filing system, a graduate degree, and no husband. My father Dennis liked to say I was too institutional because I believed forms should mean something. He said that like structure was a character flaw. He would grin at church picnics and tell people Amanda had chosen real education at home, while I was still inside the system. He loved that word, system, because it turned my profession into a machine and Amanda's into love. But when Amanda needed reading screening tools, diagnostic ideas, book lists, or advice about a child reversing letters, the system suddenly became family. I was expected to hand over what I knew because it's for the children. Family has many masks. In mine, it wore scripture on Sundays and contempt on Mondays. I grew up tutoring Amanda. That is not a metaphor. I mean literal tutoring. She struggled in school, especially with reading comprehension, essay writing, and algebra word problems. I sat at the kitchen table every evening from age 13 to 16, re-explaining worksheets she had skipped and novels she had not read because my mother said, "You're so good at school, Claire. Help your sister." Amanda thanked me when she needed a grade and mocked me when she no longer did. By the time she had her second baby, she had reinvented herself as the kind of woman who rolled her eyes at public education. She called teachers bureaucrats, lesson plans, state-approved boredom, and testing, childhood violence. The irony never bothered her, because irony only hurts if you have to live honestly with your past. She built an identity around rejecting the very thing that had once rescued her. I built a career around helping children who felt stupid discover they were not. That difference became the fault line of our family. Amanda's motherhood made her morally superior in my mother's eyes. My teaching made me useful but suspicious. I was the aunt with good influence when Amanda needed help with phonics games and school system brainwashed when I suggested maybe not every struggling reader should be treated with prayer and copywork. The first time she used my life as overflow was during my first year teaching. Anyone who has ever taught knows that first year feels like running through a hailstorm while carrying other people's children. I was 24, working late, drowning in parent-teacher conferences and intervention folders, surviving on bad coffee and adrenaline. One Tuesday in October, Amanda dropped her 3 kids at my apartment with 2 backpacks and a bag of crackers and said, "You're already good with kids. I just need 2 hours." She disappeared for 8. I missed my own conference prep, canceled the data meeting, and ended up writing reports at midnight while her youngest slept on my couch. When I called my mother, she said, "What is the big deal? You act like children are contamination." That sentence stayed with me. In our family, refusing to absorb motherhood's overflow meant you hated children. Loving children meant surrendering your schedule without complaint. I was told over and over that because I didn't have children of my own, my patience was basically unused inventory. That is how single women get robbed by family. Not through one dramatic theft, through 1,000 little assumptions that your life is unfinished and therefore available. My emotional anchor in those years was Leonard Price, the retired reading specialist who had mentored me during my graduate practicum and stayed in my life afterward like a lighthouse. Mr. Price was 73, soft-spoken, sharp-eyed, and still carried index cards in his jacket pocket for notes. He believed literacy work was sacred and practical at the same time. "Reading is not a miracle," he once told me as we sorted decodable texts. "It is a trust. Children trust you to notice what they need and to never fake knowledge you do not have." He also believed credentials mattered because vulnerable children deserve adults who respect the weight of public trust. When I got my license and my first classroom, he gave me a worn blue whistle from his own early teaching years. "Not because you'll blow it much," he said, smiling, "because it reminds you that guidance is a responsibility, not a performance." I kept that whistle in my desk drawer and later on a hook by my whiteboard. It came to symbolize the cleanest part of my work: children, structure, safety, truth. I had no idea one day it would sit on a table like evidence against my own family. My work became my purpose quickly. I specialized in reading intervention, especially for children with dyslexia or low reading confidence, the quiet kids who learned early to hide behind behavior or silence because words embarrassed them. I built routines that made them feel seen: sound drills, syllable mapping, intervention binders, progress charts, book baskets full of decodable stories that did not insult their age. I developed a small reading framework that later won a district literacy award because it helped older, struggling readers regain fluency without shame. That award mattered to me not because it made me look good, but because it meant children who had started the year calling themselves dumb were ending it asking for books to take home. I remember one 5th-grade boy named Eli who cried the first time he finished a chapter without help. "I thought kids like me just don't read," he said. Moments like that were the center of my life. But to my family, all that work became a pool of expertise Amanda could dip into whenever motherhood wanted another gold star. Amanda started her homeschool co-op after her 3rd child and a year of Facebook posts about protecting childhood. It began with 6 families in the church basement twice a week, then 10, then 15. She called it the Cedar Grove Learning Co-op, which sounded both rustic and organized. My mother Valerie loved it because it turned Amanda into a local church figure. Suddenly, she was not just a tired mom, she was a family education leader. Valerie told everyone Claire teaches government school, but Amanda teaches freedom. People ate that up because they love a woman with children and a mission. Soon Amanda was posting photos of sensory bins, Bible verses on bulletin boards, and smiling kids with clipboards. The co-op started charging parent fees. A reading track appeared. A dyslexia support circle appeared. Little laminated labels appeared on book tubs that looked suspiciously like the ones I used in school. I noticed some of it at Thanksgiving, then at Easter, then in stray comments. I used that game you showed me. I made copies of those sound cards. Those progress charts you keep are genius. Each time, Amanda said it casually, the way people mention borrowing sugar. I kept telling myself she was only using general ideas, because the alternative meant admitting she saw my professional life as communal property. The inciting humiliation came at my cousin Rachel's baby shower in a church fellowship room with pink balloons, punch in crystal bowls, and enough older women to turn any casual cruelty into instant social truth. Amanda had gathered a circle around herself near the gift table and was telling the story of how the co-op was growing. My mother hovered beside her, full of approval. Someone asked how Amanda managed the reading side with so many levels. Amanda laughed and pointed at me across the room. "Oh, I have a secret weapon. Claire's teaching license is finally doing something useful outside government schools." People laughed. Not all of them, but enough. I froze with a paper cup in my hand. Then Amanda added the sentence I would later hear in my head at 3 a.m. "You don't even have children, Claire. Let your license help mothers who actually do." My mother smiled the satisfied smile of someone hearing her own beliefs said out loud by a prettier mouth. My father, cutting cake at the back table, called over, "See? Education can still serve family." There is a particular kind of humiliation in being publicly thanked for a permission you never gave. I said, "My license is not community property." Amanda tilted her head like I had made the whole room unpleasant for no reason. "It's for the children," she said. Then my mother gave me the look she always gave when truth threatened her social atmosphere. The look meant, keep quiet and don't embarrass us. I left before the games. In the parking lot, I sat in my car with the blue whistle in my palm, trying to decide why I felt sick. The answer was simple. They had converted my professional trust into family branding and expected me to swallow it because motherhood was in the room. The email from the parent came 4 days later. Along with the brochure, she attached a page from the co-op parent packet asking whether Dr. Claire Bennett's dyslexia stream would include formal screenings. I am not a doctor. I am a licensed reading specialist with a district literacy award. The packet was using my license number, my award bio, and a warm little paragraph about my reading philosophy that I recognized immediately because Amanda had copied it from a district newsletter feature about my intervention program. My chest got tight. I audited before I panicked. That is how teachers and wounded daughters survive. I searched the co-op website. Archived screenshot. My name. I searched the church bulletin PDF. My name. I searched the family Google Drive Amanda had once used to share vacation cabin lists and found a folder called Co-op Reading Resources. Inside were scans of my original lesson binder pages, intervention prompts, a copied signature file, and a draft professional advisor letter, already bearing a version of my name. Then I got the thing that turned it from theft into danger. A state education complaint notice, forwarded by a state reviewer, asking for clarification about the co-op's representation of specialized reading services and licensed oversight. Amanda had already submitted a response packet. On the signature page was my name. The signature was copied from an old thank you letter I had written for a family fundraiser 2 years earlier. The state complaint had my signature on it. They had not just borrowed my work, they had used my professional identity as a shield. I called no one from my family. I called Leonard Price first. He listened without interrupting, which is its own form of mercy. Then he said, very quietly, A teaching license is a public trust, not a family favor. I wrote the sentence down. He asked me to email him every document. Then I called my district reading coordinator only to confirm I was right to take it seriously. She did not tell me what to do, but the silence after she heard, "My sister used my license number," told me everything. Next, I began the access audit. Co-op parent portal screenshots, brochure PDFs, church bulletin posts, family Google Drive timestamps, the copied signature file, the state complaint response, parent invoices referencing professionally guided reading support. Caleb, Amanda's oldest, texted me that evening from a number I almost ignored. "Aunt Claire, please don't say I told you, but Mom used your binder photos because parents wanted to know the reading stuff was real." Children always tell the truth when adult lies start taking too much space. I asked one question. "Did Mom tell parents I worked there?" He wrote back, "She said you oversaw it but were too busy to come every week." That sentence hurt more than the brochure. They did not just use my name. They used my absence as proof of prestige. Borrowed trust works best when the real person is off stage. I sent one formal, non-consent letter that night to the State Education Review Office and to the church board that hosted the co-op. I stated clearly that I had not authorized the use of my name, teaching license, license number, signature, reading materials, award bio, or any representation that I supervised or advised the co-op. I asked that all materials be corrected and that the pending complaint response be frozen until the state reviewed the false endorsement issue. One letter, one boundary, one room in my life finally locked from the inside. At 10:28 p.m., Amanda called. She did not say hello. Why did the state reviewer call me? There it was. Not apology, not explanation, panic. "Because you used my license." "Claire, don't be dramatic. You put my signature on a state response." Silence. Then, lower. "Parents were told you supervised the reading track. It helped them feel safe." There was the hidden sentence. Not the children, the parents, the fees, the image. My mother grabbed the phone next. "Why are you doing this over paperwork?" My father came in after that. "Stop making education sound like a legal threat." I looked at the blue whistle on my desk. "You made it legal the moment you used my license number." Amanda said, "I needed credibility." I answered, "Then earn it." She started crying, or performing crying, which can sound identical over speakerphone. My mother said the line she always used when she wanted my life demoted beneath motherhood. "Serve families instead of serving paperwork." I said, "My name is not a family service." Then I told them they had 72 hours to remove my name, license, lesson materials, award bio, and signature from every co-op material and notify parents. My father muttered, "Your grandmother didn't raise you to be this hard." He was wrong. Leonard Price and the children in my classroom did. The smear began by sunrise. Valerie posted in the church moms group that I was bitter toward homeschool families and jealous because Amanda had children while I only had students. That line spread fast because it was built from the oldest insult childless women hear, that our care is somehow less real because it is professional. She told people I was trying to destroy a Christian education program because I was loyal to public schools and the state. She said I never understood motherhood. That part was almost funny because I had spent my whole adult life helping children read, listening to moms cry in parent conferences, and sending home materials so kids could stop hating themselves over words. But facts are weak against roles people already want to believe. Amanda sent a group text to family saying I was attacking her co-op during a season of growth instead of supporting children. My father added, "Claire has always needed control." The family dynamic was laid bare in one thread. Amanda got moral urgency. Valerie got public sympathy. I got accused of selfishness for wanting my own signature back. I nearly caved because of the children. That is always where women like me are meant to break. Amanda had a few struggling readers in that co-op. I knew because she had been texting vague questions for months. What if parents blamed me and the children lost reading support? What if the moms group decided I cared more about credentials than kids? Leonard came by my classroom after school the next day. He still moved slowly, but his mind was cut glass. He brought with him a manila folder containing a photocopy of the first reading intervention notebook I ever kept as a new teacher. "In case you need reminding," he said. On the first page, in my own younger handwriting, I had written, "I want every struggling child to know they are not lazy." Leonard looked at me and said, "Children should not learn under borrowed trust." I wrote that down too. That was the line that steadied me. This was not anti-child, this was pro-child. Children with reading struggles deserve real support, not marketing built on somebody else's qualifications. The private truth room happened after school in my classroom on Thursday, exactly the kind of room my mother had spent years dismissing as bureaucratic. Student artwork still hung on the back wall. The decodable readers were stacked by level. The blue whistle sat on my desk beside the state complaint notice. Amanda arrived first, brittle and furious. My mother Valerie came behind her, carrying banana bread as if baked sugar could cover document fraud. My father Dennis followed with the look of a man already bored by responsibility. Caleb came reluctantly because Amanda thought his presence would make her look maternal. Leonard sat beside me near the kidney table where I usually taught small group interventions. My mother looked at him and stiffened. She had never liked witnesses she could not guilt. Amanda began before she sat down. "You blindsided me." I slid the brochure across the desk. "You used my license." "I only listed you because you helped the kids." I placed the parent packet beside it. "You told parents I supervise the reading track." "You do help with reading." Helping is not supervising. Leonard said nothing, but his silence supported me more than my family's words ever had. My father tried the old line. "You are making education sound like some legal trap." I set down the state complaint notice with the copied signature. "Because you made it one." Amanda's face changed. For 1 second, real fear surfaced beneath the performance. "That signature was just to show consistency," she said. I placed the copied signature file next to the complaint page, and then the old thank you note she had copied it from. Face slap proof. Exact match. Same slant, same cramped loop in the C. "This is not consistency," I said. "This is false representation." My mother reached for wounded innocence. "No one was trying to hurt you." Leonard finally spoke. "Professional fraud does not have to intend harm to create it." My mother turned on him. "This is family." Leonard did not blink. "A teaching license is not a family favor." That line landed so hard I saw Amanda flinch. She then tried the lie I expected. "You agreed at Thanksgiving to help more officially." I slid a printout from the parent portal across the desk. The upload timestamp for the advisor letter was from a Tuesday at 10:12 a.m., when I had been teaching a reading intervention block. "If I agreed," I asked, "why was the file uploaded while I was teaching and without telling me?" My father stopped talking. That was the first major shift. In our family, men like him only argue while fog exists. Proof removes oxygen from their performance. Then Caleb did something I did not expect. He took his phone out and quietly said, "Mom also used the binder photos after you said no." Amanda went pale. My mother snapped, "Caleb, not now." But once a child decides to stop carrying adult dishonesty, the room changes fast. Caleb showed us the text Amanda had sent him. Take pictures of Aunt Claire's reading binder pages before she notices the folder missing. My stomach dropped. I had loaned Amanda a few generic reading game ideas for her own children months earlier. She had photographed the rest. She had not only stolen my public identity, she had stolen the work itself. Leonard opened my old intervention notebook and read aloud the line from the first page. I want every struggling child to know they are not lazy. Then he looked at Amanda and said, that line belonged to a teacher working late to help children who trusted her. It was not written to sell your co-op. My mother actually cried then, not because I was hurt, but because her moral scenery was cracking. Children need this program, she said. I answered, then build it honestly. Amanda hissed, you care more about your license than about my children. No, I said. I care enough about children not to let them be used under borrowed trust. The terms were repeated. 72 hours, remove my name, notify parents, withdraw the signature, pull the materials, stop using my award. My father said, you always need everything in writing. Because you never mean it when it's only spoken, I said. That shut him up. The public truth room took place 3 days later in a joint meeting between the state education reviewer and the church board that hosted the co-op. It was held in a multi-purpose room off the fellowship hall, the kind of room churches use for both Bible study and conflict because folding chairs make everything feel temporary. Present were the state reviewer, a church elder, a parent representative, Leonard Price, Amanda, Valerie, my father, Caleb, and me. Amanda had been scheduled to receive a Family Education Leader certificate at the co-op open house that week. That mattered more to Valerie than the state review did. Church titles are oxygen to women like her. I arrived with a folder of documents and the blue whistle in my bag. Not because I needed symbolism, but because I had learned that objects steady memory. Amanda spoke first because she believed whoever sounds maternal first sounds truthful. There has been a misunderstanding, she said. Claire has always supported our children's reading, and I believed she was comfortable being listed as an advisor. Advisor. That softer word again. The state reviewer asked whether I had authorized use of my teaching license number. I said no. Then I placed the brochure, the parent packet, the state complaint response, the copied signature, and the parent portal timestamps in a clean row on the table. The church elder leaned forward. The parent representative's face went blank in the way people do when they realize the friendly story they bought had a trap door under it. Amanda tried to minimize. The reading track was always informal. I handed over the parent invoices referencing specialized reading support and the dyslexia track. Then why were families charged under my title? She had no answer. Valerie tried to redirect with emotion. Claire has always been difficult about helping family. I answered, my objection is not to helping family. It is to false professional endorsement. The state reviewer asked directly, did Ms. Bennett supervise this reading track in any formal or informal capacity? Amanda hesitated. That hesitation told the room more than a denial would have. Caleb then spoke up, voice shaking but clear. No. Mom told parents Aunt Claire was involved because it made them feel better. The room shifted. Children are devastating witnesses because adults spend so long pretending they are too innocent to notice lies. The parent representative looked at Amanda and asked, was my child placed in a dyslexia support group based on materials you claimed were supervised by a licensed specialist who wasn't actually there? Amanda said, the children were learning. The woman replied, that is not what I asked. I felt the floor settle under me. For the first time, the issue was being named accurately. Then Leonard placed a letter on the table. He had written it that morning. In it, he stated his role as my mentor, described the ethical boundaries of professional reading support, and affirmed that the original intervention materials and philosophy being used in the co-op belonged to work created for public educational service, not family marketing. Children deserve adults who tell the truth about what they can and cannot provide, he said. Borrowed credentials do not protect struggling readers. The church elder, who had probably assumed this would be a messy family dispute, now looked like a man who realized he was sitting in the middle of institutional liability. The state reviewer asked to see the complaint response page. I handed it over. She compared the signature with the original source document I had brought. Exact match. Same copied line break, same pixelation pattern from being lifted and pasted. She asked Amanda plainly, "Did Miss Bennett sign this herself?" Amanda looked at my mother, then at the table. "No," she whispered. The room went still. Not because anyone was surprised anymore, but because confession changes the air. Valerie burst into tears and said, "We were only trying to help children." The parent representative answered before I could. Then why lie to parents? That one question cut through every layer of church language and motherhood fog. The consequences came in that steady, humiliating way that institutional corrections do. The co-op was required to remove my name, license number, title, award bio, and all representations of professional supervision immediately. Parents who had enrolled children in the reading track under the impression of licensed oversight were to be notified and offered refunds for that portion of fees. The state reviewer required a corrected response to the complaint and noted that further misrepresentation could escalate the matter. The church elder postponed Amanda's Family Education Leader Certificate and suspended use of the church space for the dyslexia track until compliance issues were resolved. The parent representative requested a full review of all co-op advertising materials. Valerie looked like someone had turned the lights on in her private theater. My father said almost nothing. Men like him go silent when there are no longer any daughters left to bulldoze. Amanda kept trying to say she had meant well, but meaning well is a weak raft once parents hear the word false representation tied to their children. The reviewer thanked me for clarifying the record. That sentence mattered more than it should have. Clarifying the record. After years of being made to feel petty for needing accuracy, hearing a professional authority treat truth as service felt like medicine. The fallout spread fast through church circles. Valerie's mom's group post backfired once parents learned exactly how my name had been used. A few women still called me harsh. They always would. Some people only respect a boundary if a man announces it. But more parents reached out quietly to say they were grateful someone had spoken before things went further. Two mothers of struggling readers asked me if I could recommend legitimate screening resources. That mattered. It meant the children would not carry the cost of Amanda's ego as heavily as I feared. Amanda lost enrollment after the refund notice went out. The open house became awkward. The church delayed her certificate indefinitely. My father stopped making jokes about government schools around me, not because he had suddenly changed, but because the room had changed. My mother kept saying I humiliated Amanda publicly. What she meant was I ended private misuse in a public room. There is a difference, and families like mine depend on people not noticing it. After the review, Amanda called once and said, "You made parents think I don't care about kids." I answered, "No, you made parents think I was there." She cried and told me I was punishing her for being a mother. That line no longer worked on me. Motherhood is not a license to steal trust. My father sent a message saying I could have handled it inside the family. I wrote back, "Inside the family is where you taught her this would work." He never replied. Caleb texted me a week later and said, "I'm sorry about the binder." I told him the truth. None of this was his fault. Children should not have to carry the moral cleanup for their parents. That conviction became important later. Because as hard as the confrontation was, the story did not really end there. It turned. Leonard Price died 6 months later. He had a gentle decline, the kind that seems impossible until suddenly the chair is empty. In his will, he left me his old classroom resource cabinet, full of decodable readers, phonics cards, assessment folders, and one final note tucked into the top drawer. Do not let anyone borrow the trust children place in your name. I cried when I found that note. Not pretty crying, the kind that empties your chest, because Leonard had seen me clearly in a way my family never had. He saw that my work was not a personality trait or an extra maternal resource sitting unused in a childless life. It was a trust, a calling, a shelter for children who needed the truth. With Leonard's cabinet, my own materials, and 2 colleagues from the district reading team, I created the Blue Whistle Literacy Trust. Not a big, glamorous nonprofit, a practical local project. Free reading screenings for families. Parent guides that explain signs of dyslexia without exploiting fear. Consent-safe literacy resources for both homeschool and public school families. Workshops on how to seek help honestly, ask professionals for consultation appropriately, and protect children from adults who exaggerate credentials to feel important. The blue whistle became the symbol on our workshop packets. At the start of each session, I place it on the table and tell the room, guidance is a responsibility, not a performance. Parents write that down. So do teachers. So do aunts raising nieces, grandmothers tutoring grandsons, foster parents, church volunteers, and once even a father who admitted he had almost lied about a tutor's qualifications because he was embarrassed his son needed help. Truth gives people permission to choose real help. One of the most meaningful moments came during an early Blue Whistle workshop, when a mother named Sherry stayed after and whispered, "I thought I had to accept whatever sounded specialized because I was afraid my daughter was falling behind." That was exactly the vulnerability Amanda had exploited. Not cruelty from parents. Fear. Fear makes adults grab at authority claims fast, especially when children struggle. I showed Sherry how to ask better questions. Who supervises? What credentials are real? What consent is documented? That became the practical redemption in all this. I could not undo the ways my family used motherhood as a crowbar against my boundaries. But I could help other families build something cleaner. Children deserve adults who are honest about what they can do. They also deserve adults who know when to refer them onward rather than decorate a program with a borrowed name. Amanda and I are not close now. We orbit the same holidays with the brittle politeness of people who know exactly where the fracture sits. Valerie still tells selective versions of the story, though not as loudly. The church room taught her something she hates. Once public trust is broken with proof, tears are not enough to reseal it. My father now uses the phrase, "that misunderstanding," which is how men avoid naming their own daughter's betrayal. Caleb occasionally asks me for book recommendations. I always answer. He was one of the children caught in the middle, and I will never punish a child for telling the truth. That distinction matters to me. It is the whole moral center. My fight was never against homeschooling. It was never against mothers. It was never even fully against Amanda, though she earned what happened. My fight was against the idea that my childless life was unused education waiting for motherhood to claim it. I still keep the blue whistle. It hangs by my office shelf now, above Leonard's note. Sometimes, before a screening day or a workshop, I hold it for a second and remember the baby shower, the brochure, the copied signature, the church room, the exact look on the parent representative's face when she realized her child had been placed in a reading track under borrowed trust. Then I remember the children in my classroom, the boy who cried because he finished a chapter, the girl who whispered, "Can I take this book home?" like she was asking permission to be hopeful. My family wanted my credentials, not my care. They wanted the authority that came with my work, without honoring the discipline, ethics, and truth that made the work safe. They treated my boundary like selfishness because they wanted my profession to behave like free family labor. But a teaching license is not a family favor. My childless life was not unused education. And a family that calls your boundaries selfish while borrowing your professional name does not want help. It wants authority without consent. If the people closest to you took the work you built and used it to make themselves look noble, would you still call that love? And if the whistle that once helped you guide children safely became the symbol of protecting them from adult ego, would you leave it hanging in silence, or would you blow it loud enough for the whole room to stop and finally look?